and get them on. That's what I do. Okay.
Good morning and welcome to the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. I'm Brooke Bednarz alongside Derek Smith and the voice of the Bears, John Morris. Still repping your credential here. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
He's
great.
so excited.
Can I explain?
Yes. The voice of the Bears.
Yeah, I had to get the credential to get through
I
all
know.
the traffic.
That's why I
out
pointed
there.
it out.
So, yeah, thank
we have
you.
expanded security here today because there's kind of an exciting thing happening behind us. If you can see, big noon kickoff here. First time that they've been here. So I'd like to say we're not competing with them. We are just joining the party.
Yeah, we hate to drain their audience away
Right,
for our
you know?
show, but we're gonna carry on and have our show today.
Exactly. All to say it's very exciting for Baylor, for all of them to get to be out here and to help celebrate the excitement that is this game, as we hope the Baylor Bears bounce back against the Oklahoma Sooners
By the
today.
way, they can have Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart. We've got Elliot Coffey, Seth Russell,
Right.
Bryce Petty. They're all waiting in the
Exactly.
wings. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and we're not going to mention that they have Bob Stoops. No,
well, that's
just
true.
move
That's
right
true.
on.
Which, that'll be a little subplot today as we play Oklahoma, and a matchup, as you said, obviously always a big matchup. Oklahoma right now the lone undefeated team in the Big 12, a chance to knock them from the ranks of that, and to also get back on a winning track. You know, Baylor kind of let one get away last week against TCU. Oklahoma's a tough matchup, but we always play them well.
2 years ago, remember 2 years ago?
I remember
sorry to bring
2
that
years
up.
ago.
Baylor had a 28-3 lead over Oklahoma here at McLean Stadium, 31-10 at halftime.
Yep.
And Oklahoma had put together what was the biggest comeback in school history to beat Baylor 34-31.
That is not a good stat.
But then last year, a 2-7 season, Baylor played OU really well in Norman.
Very true.
Lost the game, but held them to season lows in rushing and total offense. So I think Dave Aranda's defense, I think he knows what he's doing against these guys, and that'll be a good chess match today.
Absolutely, and we were talking a little bit before the show, but that's Aranda's defense and the success that they have had so far. If they can hold them down with that young quarterback who, Caleb Williams, he's done a tremendous job so far, but he's not great in the progressions like we were mentioning before. And so if we can get him to that point, if we can work on our pass rush, I think it's going to be a good game.
Yeah.
Yeah, you look last week, the pass rush didn't get there enough, and when it did, they struggled to bring down Morris. This week, he's got to land. This week, it's got to land, or, whatever you set up on defense, that chess match that you talked about, maybe you try to drop guys back in coverage and make Williams go through his reads. As you said, he's a young quarterback. We've seen in the Big 12, there's a lot of young quarterbacks that maybe that's not their strength. Now, we'll find out more about him today in those situations. He's had a great start, 14 touchdowns, 1 interception since taking over against Texas, but this is a Baylor defense that has a really strong ability to rattle quarterbacks, to take away what you do well. I'm excited to see if we can do that today.
And an exciting secondary. We're going to dive into Jalen Petrie and how he's one of a kind a little bit later. But what do you think, John, is going to be the keys to success for Baylor to beat this, or end, I will say, the fact that OU's won the last 7 meetings?
Yeah, I think what Derek said is really key. That's putting pressure on the quarterback, rushing the passer, because that was an issue last week against TCU, against a mobile quarterback. Now, Caleb Williams is just as mobile, if not more so, today. But I think that's really key. You got to put pressure on him, but at the same time have integrity in your rush lanes and not let him get out and go crazy. So I think maybe, I guess in my mind, that is the key, is putting pressure on the quarterback today.
You were at the TCU game. That's always a hostile environment. That's a big rivalry for the Bears. To get back to the home field and to really, Aranda has talked about how McLean has truly become a home field advantage so far this season. And to get back here, we're undefeated at home. Do you think that Gary Bohannon and the offense is going to be able to settle in a little bit more than they were able to at TCU?
Yeah, that's big. 5-0 at home this year, as you said, and the last home game was Texas, and our crowd really did their job. Well done by the fans, because there were times in that game where Casey Thompson was having trouble getting the signals relayed, and it just kind of hurries you up, when the crowd can interrupt you like that. So we need that today, again, from the crowd against Oklahoma.
And that was another young quarterback that the Bears defense had found success against. We'll be back with more of the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. Welcome on our Baylor Football Legend of the Week when we are back right after this.
John Warner, Waco Trip. Bryce, it seemed like it took a little while for you to get on the same page with your receivers, but did you start feeling a little better about it as the game went on?
Yep, just ready for OU.
Pierre Newsome, KCM in the back here, Bryce. Seems like you guys had trouble finishing drives in that second quarter especially. Is something just not clicking at the moment with you in the receiving corps?
No, just ready for OU.
Brian Kaufman, News 10 Sports. Are you ready for OU?
We are ready for OU, yep.
Jerry Hill, Baylor Bear Insider. Bryce, that pass to Corey, what worked there? And, I mean, did he create that?
That look.
Just ready for OU.
Brooke Bednar's Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. Bryce, are you excited to be the Baylor football legend this week?
Just ready for OU. Yeah. Well, this is such an awesome honor, one, to be sitting up here with you guys, and then especially this game. I was just telling John, it was never meant to be something bigger, I guess, than that moment. But what has transpired really for, I guess, Baylor Nation, especially gearing up for this game, has been really cool to just kind of watch it take its own form.
Well, you knew we had – once we saw that you were the legend for this game, it had to come out of the vault.
And this had to be your game, too.
Right.
You had to be the legend for this game.
Exactly. I loved how it just kind of it worked out that way.
Well, and the way it worked out the next week, you were ready for OU.
That's right.
That was a big win for Baylor.
That's right. One of my favorite games, wins for us, especially in that environment, never really went to OU and dominated or rather won.
Yeah.
So the way that we won, and then getting off the bus, it just kind of everything that week was very focus driven. We knew that we had a goal in mind, and it was great to go execute it.
Wow. It was a dominating win, too. Wasn't it 48-14?
Believe so.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And how about this? Historically, that's the last time Oklahoma has lost a game in the month of November. They're 23 straight since then, which says a lot about them. But that game was the last time they lost in November.
That's a stat.
Says a lot.
It's a stat,
That's a
and
stat.
to get the Boo Birds out too. Were
Yes,
awesome. Love the Boo
in
Birds,
Norman.
Yeah.
In Norman. Right.
The two things stand out from that week were you saying ready for OU leading into the game, and then the shots of the Oklahoma coaches box as we were just marching down the field.
Yeah.
And you could see papers flying and coaches angry. And
Right.
It was a very pleasing sight.
It's kind of one of the you, me, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was wild. So
Really cool. Well, it's great to have you here. Great to have you back. And this is a big game today, isn't it?
very, very much so. But yes, thank you guys so much for having us. And like I said, just such a tremendous honor to be a legend. Knowing that was just a small part of what, I guess, from the old Southwest Conference days to a little bit of a lull in there to where we are now, where there's so much expectation, so much hype, especially with this game right here. And I know last week was, a disappointment for a lot of us, but this is still a really big game to kind of set our season and atone for, the rest of the guys coming in.
Yeah. We've had some really good quarterbacks come through here, especially in recent years. There's only one quarterback that quarterbacked the team to back-to-back Big 12 championships, and that would be you. So well done there.
It's another good stat.
Yeah, how about
thank
that span, 2013, 2014 Big 12 champs?
Yeah, it was just such a blessing to be a part of, and a lot of great memories, a lot of great teams, great guys, and it's so fun now looking back at what that was for me and my family, and just a tremendous blessing, really. It was cool.
What's it like to be back here today? We're actually on the Floyd Casey turf here.
Yeah, that's right.
yeah.
Which is an awesome,
That's
awesome little check mark to be on here, because it was for me it was one season, but there was just a lifelong tradition on this field, especially or on this turf, and so to be back, I love being around. Baylor Nation, and again in a winning mindset too. There's an expectation to win here, and a tradition of winning, which is great to be a part of. Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about what you're doing now. You have a lovely crowd of fans.
Nice entourage over
Nice
here.
entourage.
Got a little Baylor cheerleader. She's probably running around. She doesn't sit still long. But yeah, so I'm fat, dumb, and happy. Retired and kind of doing a little bit of my own thing, actually, kind of getting opportunities for athletes. I've always wanted to bring investment opportunities back into the locker room with basically partnering great operators, great sponsors with athletes to be able to do that. So got a little private equity, little venture, and a little real estate all mixed in together.
Nice. How often are you able to make it back to McLean?
We didn't come back last year at all. So this will be my third.
Which is fair. Yeah,
right. It is fair. This will be our third game as a Petty family coming back to McLean.
Nice.
Yeah.
On the field again, going to be honored on the field. What's that going to be like for you?
I really don't know how to put that into words yet. I've tried to I guess thinking about it this morning and even last night, but again, going back to just a small part of what this tradition is, knowing that the 125 guys in a locker room, everybody playing a big piece of that. So it's really a humbling experience to be honored knowing that there was so many guys that played into those 2 awesome seasons for us.
Well, I know that you follow the Bears a lot. If anyone follows you on Twitter, they know that.
Yeah.
You're still a big fan of the team. So your thoughts? OU's coming off of a bye, and we're trying to bounce back after a loss from against TCU. What has this week been like from your perspective as a former player, and what do they have to take care of today?
Right. Well, I think first and foremost, it's just, a focus mindset. I think everybody was calling TCU the trap game. It's a rivalry game. No Gary Patterson. They came out and they played really well. I thought that we kind of felt that we were just going to walk out there and win, and you can't do that. You can't do that in any game. And so I'm hoping that these guys really had a focused mindset, throughout practice. But this is really interesting game because I think this is the first time, if you guys have been watching OU as well, that they've played a really good team.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm actually excited, and I hope that Baylor punches him in the face. So
because you're just
fair.
ready for OU.
Because I'm ready for OU. That's right. Yeah.
What do you see when you look at Gary Bohannon in his game?
Yeah, just a lot of development. It was actually something that I had the pleasure of talking to him, and there's something about again, just the craft of a quarterback that you really love to see development, because you just don't get to see that much anymore. And especially in this day and age of the transfer portal, guys, if they don't play, they just leave. And I feel like you don't ever get to develop through a system, and Gary's been through a lot of systems, to his credit. And so but just his ability to move in the pocket, have the presence, and be able to deliver and execute this offense. And then I love watching him get on the sidelines because guys respond to him. That's such a big part of being a quarterback is having that response from your guys. And so you can tell guys love him.
Well, you're someone who definitely had that response from your guys as well. Thank you so much for coming out here and being a part of the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. Congratulations again on being the Baylor football legend this week.
Thank y'all.
It's great.
Always.
Thank you, Bryce. Ready for OU.
That's
We're
it.
ready for OU.
Let's do it. All right.
We'll be back with more of the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show right after this.
Good job. Good job. Thank you.
Welcome back to the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. I'm Brooke Bednars, and now we are joined by Seth Russell. We talked with one great quarterback, and
Yes.
we're on to another great quarterback.
The
Seth.
lineage.
Yeah. How have you been doing?
It's good. It's good. It's another beautiful day for some football and perfect weather. Couldn't ask for anything better. Have the little one here with us today, so that'll be her first game, and
Nice.
hopefully it's a one to remember. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, if you remember last year, we were actually able to surprise Seth with pictures of his newborn and their announcement that they were expecting. But, so super excited to have them here and get to experience their first Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show and game.
Oh, of course, yeah. We weren't able to make it last year just due to all the normal reasons and whatnot, her being pregnant. But yeah, this is the first one she's back, and she's just all cuddled up and cozy and just having a good time with Mama.
Well, tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are. Let's talk first Baylor offense. It was a little sloppy last weekend against TCU. So keys to success this weekend, starting with Gary. What do you think that is really the focus for them in order to defeat OU's defense?
Yeah, I think first and foremost they got to come out fast. Right, last week they were pretty slow, just kind of felt a little lethargic. TCU came out with a lot of different looks and schemes, which I knew they probably would. They're always, just the history of TCU and Baylor. I mean, there's always a strong rivalry there, and whether you're 1-8 or 10-0, that game is always a critical game for both teams. And TCU just came out punching, and Baylor kind of had to try to figure the way out. Unfortunately, couldn't get out of that round, and ended up, the game ended up how it was. And but hopefully they can make an adjustment. Say this week is a huge week, right, to make a big statement. Moving forward with their Randa, team and Grimes and all those guys, and just really step up and make some big plays today and keep the ball moving.
Seth, every quarterback, Gary's had a fantastic season, and every quarterback has that stretch where, there's a couple games where there's a turnover or two, and you can go back and look at it. What, from your standpoint, does Gary need to do to sort of look back at those turnovers, shake them off, go out there and play with abandon, but also learn from those situations?
Absolutely. Yeah, our coaching staff was always big on clear it, right? I mean, you can't control what's already happened, right? Hey, learn from it. See what the defense is doing, talk to the coaching staff, talk to the players or receivers, the offensive line, and get that figured out early on so you're not making the same mistake later on in the game, right? And so I think with communication is going to be really key today, because Oklahoma's going to come out punching, right? I mean, they saw what happened last week with Morris and 400 and plus yards of offense, and I think they're really going to be licking their chops on the offensive side. We got to get after the quarterback today and get him on the ground and make him be looking around for Baylor players, right? Have the flash and all the stuff, have him looking down rather than keeping his eyes downfield.
You mentioned their offense a little bit. They have redshirt junior Kennedy Brooks. He's not quite our Abram Smith, but he is making a big impact in their rush game. Fortunately for the Bears, we're really good at locking down the rush game.
Absolutely.
But OU is really good through the air. So when you are sitting there and you're talking about all of that, what's like the game plan in your mind? What do you think would be the focus going forward?
Yeah, I think from run stopping, Baylor's done an amazing job. Their front line has just, like I said, locked down everybody they've played on the running side. And the biggest challenge is going to be the secondary, right? Now, how much time is Williams going to have back there to throw the ball, right? Because he's a playmaker, right? I mean, all those players have the ability to make big plays, and if we can get after the quarterback, get him looking around, moving the pocket, or keep him in the pocket but just scared, that's going to be really key today.
You talk about getting off to a fast start for Baylor. Abram Smith, he's been fantastic, and it'd be nice to be able to get that running game going early. Look at Abram Smith. He's on his way to being in the top 7 potentially all time today for a single season yardage for a Baylor running back. Top 7 all time single season with a pretty normal workload for him. He's kind of had that tendency to pick up steam late in ball games. But how big would it be for Baylor today to get off to that early start running game wise?
Oh, it's always critical. I mean, any game, if you can start off running the ball, that's really going to make the defense condense, right? They're going to have to bring a safety down on blitz. That's going to open up the passing game, the run pass options. With our violent offense, that's going to be critical. And Abrams just being who he is, I mean, he's got a very experienced offensive line in front of him, and if he can just trust those guys as we have this entire season and just keep crushing it, running and being able to, wear down the defense, that is going to be the defining factor today.
Well, and I love that he is a super linebacker running back looking to be physical. We're going to bring someone else up next. Seth's not going away, but we're going to bring a special guest, someone who else likes to be physical or liked to be physical and is now approaching Baylor tailgating in a whole new way. We'll be back with more right after this.
Did they say they couldn't hear us on the
Welcome back to the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. We're out here on Touchdown Alley getting ready for the game between the Baylor Bears and the Oklahoma Sooners. Bears looking to bounce back, but first, we're out here on Touchdown Alley where tailgating is very exciting. There are a lot of people out here enjoying the cooler weather, and we have former offensive lineman Blake Blackmar. If I had to name a tailgate MVP, I think it would have to be you this season.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. You know, been out here since last night cooking and tailgating, and you know, it's just kind of the going through so many coaches and you're hearing so many brands, especially like, you know, Rule's brand of being the toughest, hardest working, most competitive team in the country. I just love slapping all that stuff right on the tailgating and, you know, trying to outwork other teams' tailgates, and it gets a lot of fan engagement on Twitter and stuff, so I've been having a blast.
I was going to say, that's how we found you. You were tweeting about cooking bevo.
Yep.
And now we have a suckling pig this week.
Yep.
Talk us through just where your love for barbecuing came from, because if I remember correctly, it started when you were here.
Oh, yeah. So when I got to Baylor my freshman year, I remember the nutritionist was basically Annie Hogan. She was like, "You guys are never going to have worked out this hard. You need to eat 5 times a day." And, you know, new kid, away from home, don't know anyone. I was like, well, I can eat. So I put on like 10 pounds I didn't need to pretty quick, and they were like, "All right, you need to calm down." So I wasn't going to the dining halls because they didn't have that healthy food selection, and we didn't have the bank yet. So I was on like a ham sandwich and freezer bag broccoli diet for a month or two, and I basically was like, I gotta figure out how to cook. And so growing up, my dad grilling was always like great fellowshipping with the family, so I got a grill, and as soon as you have a grill, people start coming over, and we'd have the O-line guys come over, and then kind of branch out from there, have more and more people over just after games or in the off season. Is a great way to get to know people outside of football, and it's just kind of after I've really replaced football with tailgating and barbecuing, and you know, now I watch I watch YouTube videos of people cooking like I used to watch film of
Film.
football, you know. So like, I've definitely, you know, helped fill that void in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned inviting the offensive line. Did you ever invite the quarterback?
You
Seth, did you ever get to eat the barbecue?
Yeah, no. Well, so I would try. I did a couple times and I failed at feeding them. So I tried to. Quick story. So I tried to smoke some chicken. You know, it's like 100 degrees outside, and I'm like, all right, the temperature, and okay, I'll do it for X amount of hours, and I pulled it off, and they were as dry as a bone. And I gave it to them, and I was like, guys,
I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. They're like, and then Blake, I remember Blake was like, you're good, man, and just eating it, and I was like, I got some sauce. He was like, yeah, I probably need some sauce.
Yep.
But yeah, no, he actually lived across the street from me while we were here, and we were, I mean, you know, just kind of the camaraderie of offense and just the offense in general was always really great with them.
Very cool. Well, tell us how's the tailgate going today, Suckling Pig? That you said it was the first time you've ever done one.
Yeah. So you know, had to do beef for Texas, right? So then I was, you know, I'm like, who the hell knows what a Sooner is? And so I was like, let's just do, you know, and I feel like every week I have to like do something to one up what I did last week because more and more people come. And so I just called HEB and I was like, can you guys get me a Suckling Pig? Because I think it'll look cool and I'm pretty sure I can fit it on my pit.
Yeah.
And we can figure it out. So I got one, you know, got here last night, trimmed it, seasoned. I injected it because you're not really able to get very much seasoning on the meat. We were leaving the skin on. Cooked it. It came out. I just pulled it off right before we came over here. So after this, I'll hustle back and carve it up. It should be really good. You know, everything. I cooked it to pull. So I'm getting a little bit of my Carolina-style barbecue on today.
Very cool.
How much sleep you get last night? How'd that work?
Yeah, I nodded off, I think, around like 2:30, sitting in front of the fire, and woke up around 5 or 5:30. So I got a couple hours in, but I'm hoping that I'll sleep really well after a big Baylor victory.
Right. You are very dedicated. And before we let you go, I do want to ask you why, as a former player, you feel it's so important to be out here, to be tailgating, and to continue to support this team.
So, after leaving football behind, the thing that I've come to miss the most, and I think most people have this realization, is you miss the people. So tailgating for me is just an excuse to keep up with all these guys that you used to see every day. And if I can see you 2 to 3 times a year, that's great, man. It's a great place to fellowship. And from a player standpoint, going into some of these places like Iowa State, Kansas State, doesn't matter what their record is that year, there are people out there, rain or shine, tailgating, and when you show up, you know what kind of environment you're going into. And so I want to help be a part of creating something like that and continuing the excellence that we have here at McLean Stadium.
All right, Baylor fans, that is your call to action. You need to step up your game and try to compete against Blake Blackmar and his tailgate, or at least stop by and say hello. We'll be back with more of the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show right after this. Don't go away. Welcome back to the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. If you're just joining us, you missed out because we visited with Blake Blackmar, king of Baylor Tailgates here, and he just gave us some of Sooner.
Oh, man.
Now I'm going to turn this over to Derek because this is so good, I'm going to eat it right now.
You need to, you said they missed out. If they missed Blake, they really missed out by not being here because he just shared with us these bacon burnt ends, these pork belly burnt ends.
Oh, man.
And honestly, I may just need a minute. I may just need a minute to just sit and enjoy what we just ate because that was absolutely delicious.
I'm like, bring it back. I could take some more.
Yes,
I was like, you can come back on set. We'll
Great, there's a whole pig over there.
Yes.
Just go back.
Yeah, no, absolutely legit. He said he approaches it, tailgating, like he does football, a
Right.
craft, and I mean, you can tell. You can
Right.
tell.
Yeah, exactly.
The proof is in the pudding in this
Taste
one.
the difference.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, he attacks tailgating like a champion. We're going to need our defense to attack this game
Yes,
like
we are.
champions. Your immediate thoughts going into today's game, what do they need to adjust, and what do you think this last week has really focused on after that loss at TCU?
If we think about earlier on in the season, that one area of the defense that we were a little concerned about was the pass rush. We didn't see the numbers that we wanted on sacks. You didn't see the pressures that you wanted. You saw the turnovers, right?
Right.
You saw the productivity from individual tackles. You saw that we were still turning over the ball, but we weren't getting those pressures on the quarterback. And so that's got to be number one. Caleb Williams is one of the most talented quarterbacks in the country. We've seen what he's able to do when he has time. And so as a freshman on the road, he hasn't seen a good defense yet. And so if you can get him rattled and have him out there throwing hero balls, I think that puts us in a position to really go out there and do some things, especially if you do it early on.
You always hear coaches say, we look at the film, we see things we can clean up. And certainly that's the case after last week's loss to TCU. Obviously what Chandler Morse did was kind of beyond the pale compared to what Baylor has really given up over the last few seasons.
Yeah.
He just caught lightning in a bottle and obviously never really got stopped. What are some things you think from last week?
Yeah.
There's pass rush is something that Coach Aranda said we've got to work on. It's been a season-long thing, but what are some things you really feel like 1 week to the next they can improve on?
Yeah, so not just the pass rush, but really kind of gap integrity too, because it's not just about getting home with the pass rush. It's about not getting upfield. It's about getting to the level of quarterback and then squeezing the pocket so that you're not creating these run lanes behind you. It's about, if you're back in coverage, making sure that you're sticky. You're finding that receiver that's scrambling and that you're right there on top of him, because what you saw wasn't just the pass rush, but what you saw is kind of that scramble. It's like they're playing jackpot out there like you were a kid, right? As the play just gets extended 4 to 5 seconds, and it's really difficult for you to cover for that long. And so there's going to be situations out there today where OU is going to scramble out of the pocket and try to create those moments where you do have to scramble, where you do have to be hands-on. And so gap integrity, pass rush, don't get past the quarterback, squeeze when you get to the quarterback, and then, of course, on the back end, try to make sure that you're matching with that guy and so that you're not letting anybody scramble off and get any kind of cheap first downs.
I love this. If you're listening on radio, you're missing Elliot's diagrams
A lot of
with
hands.
his hands.
I thought a lot about this week.
I know. I love it. Aranda is the same way, so I just wanted to point that out. I feel like I really learn whenever I listen to Aranda. Same thing with you. But I want to give you the opportunity to talk about Jalen Petrie.
Yeah.
League of his own. 3 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries, and 2 interceptions. The only player in the nation to have those stats.
And the thing about those stats that I think impressed me the most is those are effort stats.
Right.
If you watch him play out there, he's violent. He doesn't waste any movement. He's a smart player. He has a nose for the ball. You think about a guy like Xavier Howard, if you saw what he did on Thursday night with that fumble, forced fumble, and then a touchdown.
Yeah.
He's that kind of player that can go out there and create opportunities. And he's the one that stayed. Right, so we have a special place in our heart for him too, because when that whole staff or that whole recruiting class left, he stuck around, and to see him develop into the player that he is today, as Lincoln Riley said, one of the most dangerous players in college football. It's been pretty impressive.
How can fans, if they're at the game today, watch Jalen Petrie like you do? What are some things that you'll be watching for that kind of away from the ball?
Ooh, I like that question.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So Jalen Petrie, what they do is he knifes off the edge. A lot of times when we need to create some type of mess in the backfield, whether it's on a run or whether it's on a pass rush, they're going to blitz him off the edge. And what you want to do is you want to watch how accurate, how sharp he comes off the edge, and then how violent he is at the point of attack whenever either it's a tight end or even an offensive lineman or a running back. When it gets him, watch how violent he is at the point of attack. Watch how he creates a mess in that pocket. And then not only does he do that, but he gets off and then a lot of times gets in a position to make a play too. So a very, very impressive player.
He is a very impressive player. He is also a better player. And here we have better players better people make better players. I'm already messing it up. We'll just let the video
We know what
talk.
you mean.
Whenever you're a better person, you focus on the details off the field. respecting others, having class, having integrity, those good traits carry onto the field and help you win.
I think better people make better players because the way they attack life, like, it's not all about football. It's about making this everywhere they go a better place. It's about being a good person. It's about helping others. It's about community engagement. It's about just making sure that you are spreading your love and your passion for the game and your passion for life.
If you're a better person, that's going to make you better in all aspects of life. So in turn, that makes you a better player.
Better people make better players by doing everything right off the field, in the classroom, just being like good people. I feel like that carries over to playing football.
How you act off the field is how you'll act on the field. You know, by the way you attack the classroom, the way you treat people, the way you go about your business, that will carry over to football.
Better people make better players because when you take care of yourself and when you develop as a human being, you in turn start to see that start to happen on the field. So it all goes hand in hand with each other.
Because when you're a better person off the field, basically everything on the field will handle itself. But like how you talk to people, how you treat other people, basically that will lead over to the football field.
Good.
Welcome back to the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. The Bears and the Sooners faced off at 11. We are out here on Touchdown Alley talking Bears defense and the keys to success. I want to go straight to the red zone.
Yeah.
I mean, when we're on offense, that's where I want to be. When we are on defense, I do not want to be anywhere close, especially knowing that the Sooners have made at least 30 trips there this year, and they are converting. They have a 98% score rate.
Yeah.
How do you keep them out of the red zone?
Man.
Because that's not good stats for the Bears.
It's not. And here's the thing is that your playbook typically condenses when you get into the red zone. And so you've got to keep them honest. You've got to make them one-dimensional. I think when you think about our offense, why we're so dangerous in the red zone is because you never know what's coming at us. Is it going to be a tight end? Is it going to be a fullback? Is it going to be a receiver? Is it going to be a quarterback? So they have the same kind of talent at multiple positions, and so that's why they're able to go out there and do some things. If I'm us in the red zone, you've just got to make sure that you pick one side of that. Either it's the run game or the pass game, and they can't do it. Flat out can't do it because the more predictable they are, the harder it's going to be for them to score. And once again, they haven't played against a defense like us all season. And they won't see another defense like us until Oklahoma State. And so if we can go out there, and once again, we've been talking about this wreaking havoc, put pressure on Caleb Williams, make him go out there in pressure situations and deliver. That's what I'm trying to get him to do.
And real fast, before we carry on, I do want to include this because you said when we get in the red zone, you don't know who's getting the ball. We've seen that fair share with Dylan Doyle. But we've had 9 touchdowns. We're leading the Big 12 in tight end and fullback touchdowns. So
that's a fun stat.
That's
Big 10 football, baby.
Right.
Well, and it's not only that. It's going to be a handoff to Gavin Yates, whose name we hadn't even called before that game. Is Dylan Doyle going to get a pass or a handoff?
Right.
Is Ben Sims going to sweep? That's what's fun about it. You don't even know where it's coming from. It's not like they just lob it into the end zone to a big 6'5" guy all the time.
That's right.
It's fancy.
Yeah, so Ben Sims caught a touchdown. No. Ben Sims rushed for a touchdown.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
Find the biggest guy on the team and have him bully his way into the end zone. That's
not
what we're
a bad
doing.
strategy.
Right.
You mentioned something, and Bryce Petty, when we had him on earlier, mentioned this as well. I think it's easy for us to also look at how good Oklahoma is. They're undefeated. They're undefeated in the Big 12. They haven't played anyone like us at this point. We've seen some seasons where all of a sudden the schedule gets harder in November. They haven't lost a November game since 2014 to Baylor, incidentally.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, here they are at this point in the season. Baylor, last week aside, has played really good football over the last, really over the course of the whole season, particularly the last couple of months.
That's right. We played especially well at home, too. And that's the thing, too, is if you think about, once again, think about this big picture. If you look at how we played against West Virginia, and that's a team that's had some really good wins in the Big 12. They play really well in Morgantown. They struggle west of the Mississippi, right? But coming out of a bye week, it's hard to get up and running because it takes some time to mentally get blocked back in. Now, you come out of a bye week, you're on the road against the best defense you've seen all season at 11 a.m. kickoff. They're stacking a lot of things on a team that already starts slow.
Yep.
And so you've got a lot of things kind of working in our favor. If we go out there and just get them right away, I think that, it's the way that we're able to run the ball, and I don't look at their defense and think to myself that they can stop our run game. If we can get to the point where we run up that score early, we're different than anybody else that they've caught up on this year because the ability for us to run the ball, whether it's Abram or Treston or, Gary if he needs to.
And I want to point out that last time we played here at home, we did get out early and we did get out big.
It's the most dangerous score in sports, right?
True. But I do think that this is a different team. This is a very different team that is more composed, more mature, and can handle having the lead. And I think we've seen that a couple of different times. I also think we've seen maturity and growth when we lost at OSU. And then we came back and we handedly beat West Virginia here 45-20. And so I'm excited to see more of that growth and more of that maturity going into today's game when it really is going to count and when they need it most.
And Ellis, you've used the word resilient a few times with this team. Their resilience, we saw that after like you said, Brooke, after OSU, the big win against West Virginia, 3-game winning streak. Now it's tested again in a big way. But what have you seen? What gives you confidence in the way they've responded to other challenges this year?
Yeah, this team, anytime they get hit in the mouth, they always come back. And so if you look at, of course, the Oklahoma State game, Coach Aranda got up there, and I think as far as a team goes, as far as their leadership takes them, and I think if you were to kind of name what kind of animal this team is, I'd say that we're probably goldfish because we have a quick memory. We forget things that go poorly, and so we don't make the same mistakes from week to week. We are resilient. This is a very, very talented football team, and so it's a tough place to play here in Waco, particularly this year. And so I think we stack up really, really well. As long as, like I said, gap integrity, pass rush, don't hurt ourselves, we can really, really go out there and do some things today.
You look at those little things that they can clean up. Coach Aranda, we're going to talk more about the pass rush coming back, and we're going to hear from Cole Maxwell in a minute. What stood out to you about the job the defensive line has done over the last month? There's been a couple games in particular where they've really made an impact.
Oh, man. I mean, you think about what BYU has been able to do post-Baylor. Tyler Algier has been one of the top rushing. I think he's leading the nation in rushing touchdowns right now. Was a non-factor against us, right? Bijan Robinson, arguably the most talented running back in the country, non-factor in the game against us. And so I think our defensive line is doing an incredible job.
We talk all the time. Aranda talks all the time. Team, unit, me. We just discussed the defensive line as a unit. But now let's take a moment to recognize one individual who has truly overcome a lot of different obstacles to be here today and to be making the impact on the defensive line as he is. Here's Cole Maxwell.
We were in fall camp, and I was excited for the season. It was going to be like my first year I was actually going to get to play some.
2 weeks before the first game, Cole Maxwell, a redshirt freshman defensive tackle, was going up against a double team in practice when his left knee gave out.
Felt like a little pop, fell to the ground. I was like, oh, something's got to be something wrong.
Out for the season with a torn ACL, Maxwell did his best to stay positive.
I just kept my head on. I was like, okay, let's get through, let's get better, and go on to the next year.
Fast forward to Maxwell's sophomore season.
It was like the 4th game of the year, and got to get in there. It was my first Big 12 appearance, and It was on the first drive I got in and just kind of gave out on me.
It was an unfortunate no-contact injury.
First thing that came to my head was, that's the other one. It happened again. Go to the hospital same night. ACL number 2.
Absolutely defeated, Maxwell had a choice to make: hang up the cleats or get back to work.
I had those thoughts of like, do I want to be done playing this and that? But my love for the game and my trust in God, it cut me there.
Round 2 of rehab was tough, and that, combined with a roller coaster of a season due to a global pandemic, didn't make his first full season any easier.
Games were getting canceled. I was like, am I ever going to really get to play? Am I going to get a whole season in? Is this ever going to happen?
But now it's his senior season, and it's happening. 19 tackles, a fumble recovery, quarterback hurries, and much more. He's truly making an impact on the Bears' defensive line.
This is what I wanted like my whole life, is to be able to play Division I football. It just feels good to get out there and play football, run around with my boys.
Thanks for sticking around to the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show out here on Touchdown Alley. The Sooners and the Bears kick off in maybe a little over an hour. We still got one great segment here. Seth's checking his watch on me. We got the stats right, maybe not the time right. But let's go inside the numbers.
Yes.
Derek, take it away.
Well, Brooke, we've been talking about the pass rush. We'll talk about it a little bit
I wonder
more.
what the big topic has been this week.
Yes, we got to get a little bit of pressure on Caleb Williams today.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Last week, 1 sack against TCU, and it seemed like, this isn't an official step, but it seemed like we either didn't get pressure on him, but when we did, we let him get out of it. 1 sack. The defensive line has been fantastic, really, for most of October, right? He had 11 sacks in the 2 games against BYU and West Virginia. Yeah. So what do we need to do? What do we need to do? Coach Aranda really put it on the coach's shoulders this week. And on Monday, he really said, we've got to work on them situations. We need to work on them one-on-one. We need to put our best against our best.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think you start to run into situations in the game where we don't necessarily have success, where you start to question, okay, have we worked this enough? Right? Are we familiar enough with this situation to go out there and execute without thinking about it? And so, there was a couple plays where we got hands on the quarterback, and it just kind of raises the question, do we need to have a live quarterback in practice, right? Do we need to have somebody where we get back, instead of us tapping or wrapping up, are we actually hitting? And so they've been very vocal about the fact that we need to work on kind of that final third of that play, right? Not just get into the backfield, but actually, making the sack. And so I don't expect to see that as a problem today. I expect us to go out there and look the part.
Yeah, absolutely. And then being late in the season, right, teams are going to have a lot of film on the defense, right, and kind of what their schemes have been, what their kind of looks. And this week may be something where they throw in some wrinkles that they haven't done yet, right? Just kind of just throw some looks that may be kind of funky, that doesn't make sense, like maybe a bear front or something that's just like completely off the charts to make that offensive side really start thinking. And really is trying to confuse that offensive line, because they have a really good offensive line up front, and if they can make them start having communication issues, that's what's really where Baylor is going to have to capitalize. And then Elliott hit on, it's like we had him in our grasp several times last week, and we just let him slip out. And I think that's, if you get your hands on him, you cannot let him go, because they're going to make big plays if he gets out of the pocket.
Yeah, and Seth made that really good point. There is always something in the playbook that's waiting for big games that you've been working on since training camp, maybe even in the spring, that you haven't seen quite yet, that will start to, like an odd front or something like that, or a blitz that's coming from a place that you've never seen it before at this point. It's not on film yet. We haven't seen it yet. And so kind of like us in the red zone on offense.
Yeah, there you go.
And so, I'd expect to kind of see some of that out there too.
Yeah. Dave Aranda, Ron Roberts, they play chess, right? You've got a young mobile quarterback in Williams. He can run, he can throw, not unlike you. Now, you were more experienced. You'd been waiting in the wings a little bit longer than he had. But what are some things Baylor can do with a young guy who's a dual threat to try to confuse him, to throw him off? Because Baylor's good at confusing coverages.
Yeah, I think it's going to be big up front with getting flashing of color, right? Hey, whatever Baylor's color wearing today, if we get flashes as he's looking down the field, he's going to feel that pressure, right? Him being young, he does a phenomenal job of keeping his eyes down the field, which has been one of his strongest, attributes, as well as being an athlete. And I think if we can get flashes early in the snap rather than later, because then he's sitting back there 1, 2, 3 seconds, things aren't opening up, then he can get in and out of the pocket. But if we can keep him contained and at least try to get it, start swiping at his arm or trying to grab his leg or something to get him uncomfortable, that's really going to be where the big plays, where we can get some interceptions potentially, right? Because I'm forcing it down the field and not being as comfortable as he's been the past few games.
When you mentioned going back to October, we had 11 sacks against West Virginia and BYU in just those 2 games. But then you look at Texas coming off that bye week, and we only had 2 sacks. But they had a young quarterback, and we were getting those flashes. We were in the pressure. So while the sacks look great, and that's everyone wants a sack, but I think it's just as valuable to know that if we can get to that point and just really lay on the pressure, it doesn't necessarily need to come down to a sack, because we also have the secondary like Jalen Petrie that we mentioned earlier.
Right. Yeah, I think that the difference that we've probably seen is that you have your true dual threat quarterbacks versus your pocket passers. Pocket passers don't play well against us because we do compress the pocket. If you expect to sit in there, we're eventually going to get pressure to you. It's when they leak out. It's when we don't show that, like I said, that integrity of getting to level the quarterback and squeezing. If we create those run lanes, you have somebody that wants to run the football, we have trouble. Now, if we can stay on the outside, so you've got some talented receivers here for OU, but if on the outside we can lock them up and force him to have to go through that progression and then have to make that decision to tuck it, we can start hitting him. When he does go through his reads and doesn't get that 1, 2, 3 that he wants, then he's going to question whether or not running the football is a move. And then that's, I think, when you start to see those interceptions and those late passes created.
Well, I think it's also important that we shut down the pass game and make them go to the rushing, because that's where we're the strongest. Right now they're at 71, nearly 72% effective on their passing. So how do we do that, Seth? How do we get them to lock down to where they are trying to hand the ball off to their running back?
Yeah, it's all going to be based off the pressure up front, right? And we keep mentioning it. And I think sometimes we have a spy, right, on a mobile quarterback. Hey, we have a late trigger in maybe 1, 2 seconds. Elliott is, very familiar with that on just a late blitz, to where, hey, the offensive line is picking up certain things. And then they forget about that last, say, Terrell or Petrie or somebody
Green dogs
sitting
and goes and gets
sitting
it
there in the wings, ready for an opening to hit. And I think that's going to be, one thing that we can at least get to and get them on the ground. And, of course, then the pressures, like you mentioned, are just as good as sacks.
Yeah. Well, it will be a great game. Thank you so much for tuning in, whether you were here in person on Touchdown Alley, listening on the radio, or on TV. We thank you, and we are so excited for this game between the Oklahoma Sooners and the Baylor Bears. We're going to send it upstairs to John Morris to take it away until kickoff at 11. Thanks for watching. Sick 'em Bears.
Sick 'em.
This has been a presentation from Learfield.